What's up, guys? We are back. All right, when I last left off, I was a fairly long distance into the second game of the 7-point old school Singleton finale against McKelvey from France. That's him on the left there playing Pink Weenie, and me on the right playing Blue-White Control. And wow, it's been a hell of a game so far. Game started out kind of actually very similar to the first game. Mikkel had perfect answers to the first two kind of answers that I deployed in the form of plowshares for a Serendip Efreet, followed up by a lightning bolt on a preacher that I played. And he backed up those removal spells with a steady stream of little guys, also backed up by an Acacian Priest, and started hitting me for steady damage. I kind of sat there with little else to do besides kind of watch anemically with an Argivian Archaeologist for some turns. But I had this Jalem Tome in play over here, and this Jalem Tome has been drawing me steady cards throughout the game, and it pretty much delivered a perfect answer just in time, pretty much the turn before I was going to die, in the form of Wrath of God, which was finally able to clear away all the initial rush of creatures. And there was a small lull in the action during which I was able to play a Jam Day Tome. And then Mikhail followed that up by playing two more creatures in the same turn. He played the Acacian Infantry, which you see just sort of hanging out by Wall of Swords there. And then the mighty Sarah Angel joined the party as well. So that's where I left off right here. Life totals are currently actually 7 to 20. Mikkel's dice, which you can see over on the left side of the screen right here, read 8. But at one point, I took a point of damage from the City of Brass, and he didn't actually adjust his life total, and I didn't even know he was using dice the whole time, so I wasn't able to correct him. But anyway, this is the stage in the game, and if you notice here, I also just discarded a Sonic Blast to Jalem Tome. At the life total that I'm at, I didn't really feel like it was a particularly safe removal tool to hang on to. And additionally, I was actually at substantially lower life total, but I was able to gain 4 life in response to that detonate that you can see there sitting on top of his graveyard, which brought my life total up out of, well, died in nearly anything range and gave me a little bit of breathing room. Although Mikkel, I think, was a little bit conservative with some of his attacks earlier in the game. Didn't pump a number of times, didn't attack with an Acacian Scout, and saved me quite a bit of life, actually, which has really been instrumental in me still being in this game. But I don't have a lot of cards in hand right now. There are 2 more threats on board. I'm dead to really any X spell given the amount of burn that still remains in his deck. So this game is hanging by a thread. I'm really sort of riding on a knife's edge right here and have to just draw my way out, as control decks often have to do when faced against a relentless attack. So I think that Mikkel has just played these two creatures. I'm going to resume the action exactly where I left off. Again, there are 2 commentators in the background. They are Thomas Meddens of the Netherlands and Ken Fritz from Hawaii. And they've been doing an excellent job of sort of narrating the action. And I've been sort of pausing from time to time to comment on whenever I have some particular insights or thoughts about what I might be doing or what I might be thinking or what my opponent might be doing. And a few times I'll just chime in anyway without pausing things. So without further ado, let's move forward to the second half of Game 2 of the old school 7-point Singleton Finals. Let's kick it off.
No. So right now, Brian's looking for a control magic. That is what is going to get him into this.
And he's thinking, do I want to counter this and then maybe have no counter spells left? Let's see what he's going to do. Oh, he's going to draw a card. Okay.
Yeah, he's going to pay a life to draw a card, which, is a decent exchange here, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer, honestly. I'm at 7, as I said before, but truthfully, with this much mana in play, I'm pretty much dead to any X spell anyway if I don't draw a counter spell. So whether I'm at 7 or I'm at 6 doesn't really affect the outcome of the game very much, whereas the extra cards of Jam Day Tome could be instrumental in allowing me to survive the onslaught.
It is, but it does mean that if the Angel swings in next turn, he's at 3, and he's in bolt range.
Yeah. If the Angel gets to come in, so wait, what's Brian's life total at?
He's currently at 6.
7, I believe.
I had him at 9. I had him going from 6 to 10 off the Divine Offering.
Ooh, that's a good point.
Okay, so you see me taking a long gander at my graveyard, which is generally indicative of one of 2 things. Obviously, most of the time when you see people glance at their graveyard for a long time, it means that they're running either Regrowth or Recall. And of course, I don't have Regrowth in this deck, despite the fact that you can see 2 green producing lands, actually, well, 3, but two non-damage dealing green producing lands in play. I'm actually running a whole gamut of these dual lands in my deck. And for people who are probably puzzled by that, given the fact that it looks like I mean, my deck is essentially just blue-white. Why am I running all these dual lands? The reason is because, well, there's actually two reasons for it. First of all, my deck has a huge theft element to it. I'm running Preacher, Old Man of the Sea, and Control Magic. And the format actually has a fair number of things that have activated abilities on them. Things like Brothers of Fire, Scavenger Folk, Phyrexian Gremlins. There's just there's quite a wide range of things that have some sort of activated abilities. Obviously, things like Shivan Dragon and Dragon Whelp, of course, have pumping too. And occasionally, it actually is relevant. The best example I can think of actually was an earlier game in the event when my opponent had an If Biff Ifrit in play. Actually, this was in the first event I played in. And I had a Savannah and a Felwar Stone in play. And because of that, he could never actually pump his If Biff Ifrit to deal even 1 damage to either of us. And the fact that I had green mana sources prevented me from taking basically 4 points of damage every single turn, because he would have been able to do 2 on his turn, 2 on my turn, 2 on his turn, and so on, and sped up the clock enormously. So having a little bit of green mana saved me tons of damage and actually bought me enough time to deal with the If Biff Ifrit. Additionally, the dual lands are confusing, particularly if people haven't seen your deck list, and they haven't actually seen my deck list until the top 8 decks were published. And in an earlier game in this event, I think in the second round, my opponent played a turn 1 Mishra's Factory, and he was playing green, red, blue, quite aggressive deck. And I purposely played Volcanic Island on turn 1, and he did not attack with the Mishra's Factory for multiple turns against the untapped Volcanic Island because he didn't know that I didn't have Lightning Bolt in my deck. So I feel like the cost of running the dual lands is relatively small. The only time it's really going to punish you is if your opponent is playing with Blood Moon, and Blood Moon is not played a great deal in the format, mainly because dual lands are restricted by default, as it's a singleton format. And Blood Moon, short of stopping utility lands like Island of Wak-Wak, Maze of Ith, Library of Alexandria, maybe Diamond Valley, just isn't probably worth main decking in most strategies. And so as a result of that, it doesn't really cost a lot to play with the dual lands versus the benefit that they might provide.
But I defer to them because maybe their count is different. But it looks like Mikkel has him at 7 on his dice.
Yeah, that's why it said 7, but...
So they're still discussing the life total. This is something I definitely learned from this event. I think in the future games, you can see the dice lined up here. This is clearly the way to do it. Big, prominent 6-siders right here. I'm such an old school guy that I use these 20-siders, which are completely invisible to the webcam where I have it. Plus, it's like super, super low res here. I think this is 480p. But anyway, I'm getting back to what I was saying. So I don't have Regrowth in my deck despite the green mana sources. I do have Recall here, though, and I've got a couple of junk cards in my hand. Among them, I have Disrupting Scepter and Felwar Stone. And I'm really loath to throw away Disrupting Scepter. It's incredibly powerful against this red-white deck, and it's been instrumental in a bunch of the victories that I've had in the test games that I played against it. But Mikkel has 4 cards in hand right now, most of which are basic land. And I'm under just a ton of pressure still steadily, and I just don't feel like the Scepter is ever going to really matter, probably, at least not relative to what's going on in the game currently. So I have, in the graveyard currently, I have, well, a whole bunch of different things that kind of deal with this board state. The problem is that I really, really want to recall for 2. I don't just want to recall for 1 to get Wrath of God. And looking at the board, given the fact that I'm at 6, I decide that ultimately I need to kind of make a play to win play versus a play not to lose play. The really weak play would be to tap 3 mana here and cast Wrath of God, but I believe I have Counterspell in my hand right now. I've been clinging to this card the whole game, well, not the whole game, for about 3 or 4 turns now, and I'm kind of of that mindset that since I'm dead to any burn spell, I just need to hold the Counterspell for literally anything that actually kills me, and the Sarah doesn't kill me. It's a huge pain in the ass to deal with. I'd rather not have to deal with it, but Counterspell, stopping a lethal burn spell, is the most important thing that my entire strategy can revolve around at this point. So I don't have the luxury of counterspelling anything but lethal burn spells. And with that in mind, I want to be able to Wrath right now, but if you see my mana right now, if I recall for 1 and I cast Wrath of God, that'll reduce me down to just a City of Brass. And if Mikkel has either lethal burn in his hand, or if he has lethal burn on top of his library, well, that's the end of the game, and I just can't take that risk. So with that in mind, I actually decided I'm going to recall for 2 here, and fortunately, I have a card that answers the Sarah Angel for 0 mana, and that card is the Island of Wak-Wak. So that's going to allow me to recall for 2, keep enough mana untapped to counterspell if I need to save my life, use Island of Wak-Wak to stop Sarah Angel, and then next turn I can follow it up with Wrath of God.
I can't see what Brian's dice says.
It says 6.
That makes a big difference, whether you're
It
9
does.
or 7.
It does.
Every life.
Do you want to maybe have them see what it is. I mean, my count could be wrong, but I had him at 6. They missed 1 City of Brass damage, but then Brian just took 1 Divine Offering for 4. He should be at 9 on my paper. Sarah of his own.
Let's see, recall.
A 2-point recall. What's he gonna get? He's gonna get the Wrath and the Blast.
Ooh.
Oh, the Island of Whack Whack. So perfect.
You can use it
What
to
a
stop the
great
angel.
choice.
Yeah, I can't take the blast. I can't afford to take
What
2.
a great choice. So Brian's gonna take a point of damage from that.
Yeah, what's
whatever.
It? The 1/1.
The 1/1. No, he's gonna take 2 because of the Pendlehaven.
That's true.
Yeah, so he's gonna take 2.
Yeah, I think it's called. It's an Icasian Infantry. Now I remember. It's Icasian Infantry, and Drew Tucker arts, very recognizable.
I still have a question about their life here.
Okay.
Okay, so this is kind of an interesting sequence right here related to timing. So Mikkel declares an attack with both the Sarah Angel and the Acacian Infantry. I immediately or relatively quickly tap Island of Whack Whack, targeting Sarah Angel, and I tell him I'm going to reduce the Sarah's power down to 4, and I declare no blockers otherwise. And he pauses for a little while, and he says very clearly, take 1, at which point you'll see me with another sigh of relief, having saved a point of damage. I reach over and I adjust my life total down from 6 to 5. And then a little while after that, after he's adjusted his life total and we're kind of still presumably back in the second main step, he kind of looks down and sees Pendlehaven and taps it and indicates that he'd like to pump the Acacian Infantry. And at which point I kind of politely tell him, well, we have sort of technically already moved into the second main step. I've already taken damage and you already said take 1. And it's too late to use Pendlehaven. And after a short pause, I think Mikkel just nods and agrees with me.
Hey, look, he's changing it now. So I think now it makes sense.
Okay, so he only took 1. He didn't activate the Pendlehaven.
Do you see him doing
he did.
there?
He did. Okay.
He did, but I think Brian corrected him that his life total was.
And I'd say, yeah, I've already taken 1.
On 8.
Can't use it anymore. I'm sorry.
Dropping to 6.
Maybe they're asking, hey, you got to use your Pendlehaven during combat.
I think he did.
I think that's what it was. He said, "Hey, you gotta be quicker on the gun there."
Exactly.
If I say no effects, and then you say I'm taking 1.
Yeah. That's true.
So he plays an Aelopile there, which is extremely relevant. Right now he has me at 6, and that brings me down in a range of one of his other burn spells, which is Pyrotechnics. But on my die, I'm now actually I'm at 5, which means Aelopile brings me down to just 3 life, which means I'm dead to the Chain Lightning in his deck as well. It just gives him another out to kill me. And this pretty much, him playing Aelopile kind of just puts me into panic mode, because it does just widen it widens the range of possible top decks. And his deck is already pretty thin. He's pulled all the land out of it. It's extremely dense in spells, and I haven't seen a single burn spell yet. So I'm in full-on panic mode. I've got to just ride these tomes and hopefully get a... I would use Counterspell to stop Chain Lightning, of course, but I don't want to have to do that. And I got to just ride these tomes and hope that they deliver me a second Counterspell. Ideally, I'd like to get the Spell Blast into my hand, because Spell Blast is probably the best answer to the Chain Lightning, given that it only costs 2 mana.
So the Aelopile.
Because the way to play it is you attack, and then you say, do you want to respond, right, to Brian? And Brian says no effects, and then Mikkel activates the Pendlehaven?
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
using,
well, Brian goes,
Tome there.
I reduced the Sarah.
My hand's too good. I can't afford to draw.
And then
I love seeing Island of Whack Whack. It's just great.
Yeah, no effects. Yeah, Island of Whack Whack is it's good, and in this format, you can't. You got 1 strip mine. Nobody's playing Blood Moon, so Island of Whack Whack is pretty good. It's a free answer.
Yeah, it is extremely good. It's really overperformed for me. I've been so
Blood
impressed
Moon
by
would be really good against Brian right now. Right? He's gonna play the Wrath, I assume. Yeah, Wrath of God.
He's gonna get rid of that stuff.
Beautiful black border Wrath of God.
It's kind of amazing. I have 7 dual lands in
Oh yeah, Brian's got he's got all the swag.
Yeah, that's a beta
Yes,
coupler,
he must have a
beta
sick
Wrath
collection.
of God.
So boom, everything's gone. And Mikael must be thinking, I just can't kill this guy.
Well, I mean, I've taken a lot of
Well,
damage this game. He's done more than 20.
You know, from Mikel, we still haven't seen a fireball. We still haven't seen a disintegrate. I would be surprised if I said, or, you know, if Brian's been sandbagging a counterspell.
It's such a relief there, incidentally, that he drew the lightning bolt at the beginning of the game instead of chain lightning. This is one of the things that's really, really relevant to Singleton format in general. Is that once I've seen my opponent play his lightning bolt, I know he doesn't have a second one in his deck. Normally, when you're running against red-white, they've got 4 of them. And you saw right there, I tapped down to just City of Brass while I'm effectively at 3 life. Against a deck that has red mana untapped, and I would never in a million years do that in a regular old school event. I would use my Jalem Tome. Keep in mind I do have counterspells, so I would use Jalem Tome instead. But I can safely tap down to just City of Brass here, knowing that he doesn't have any sources of instant burn that I have to worry about, which is so amazing. If the cards were reversed, if Chain Lightning had been used earlier in the game and he still had the Lightning Bolt in his deck, it completely changes how I have to play. Very, very uncomfortable.
That takes just an incredible amount of control not to counterspell that angel.
Thank you, Ken.
Well, if anybody can do it, it's Brian, right? So, and now, like you said, with the paper bag and the Jam Day Tome on the board, he gets to look at 3 cards a turn. He's got enough lands. He's not under pressure. Well, actually, this wolf is now another minor problem, right? Because that's the IO pile, right, that Mikael has on the.
So you see me check my graveyard right there. I'm basically just doing a quick audit of how many cards are left in my deck. I haven't really drawn any of the big butt creatures yet. I haven't drawn the Wall. I haven't drawn Azure Drake, Mahamudi, Sarah, Air Elemental. I haven't really drawn any of the finishers or any of the creatures that have high toughness, with the exception, I guess, of the turtle. And so I'm thinking about whether or not it makes sense to tap the Jalem Tome or the Jam Day Tome to try to draw 1 card to see if I can put something in the way of the Tundra Roll. So obviously I don't want to have to take any damage against it. But I am kind of already effectively at 3 here anyway on my life die total due to the fact that he has Aelopal in play. So it kind of doesn't really change a whole lot. I can take 2 damage from the wolf, and hopefully the tomes will draw me some sort of defense against it.
Battlefield as well.
Yeah.
So that's another.
So Brian
3 damage.
6. He's going to come in. He can deal 5 with the wolf and the Aelopal. Brian says no actions. He remembers the Pendelhaven.
He's got Pendelhaven. Oh, that Pendelhaven is doing work.
Yeah. Oh. 3.
I'm tapping way too many blue sources here. Need to undo that right now.
Wait. Maybe he's going to draw. No, he's not going to draw first and expose himself.
So I actually.
Okay, so yeah, he's going to draw, try to find I don't know, plow? What's he looking for?
Yeah, you can't see my hand there, but I actually do have Sword Splashers in my hand. However, I'm looking ahead 1 card here to see if there's something that's more relevant, something like a 4 health creature or the Wall or something that I can put in the way of the Wolves next turn. I really don't want to use Swords to Plowshares here if I can avoid it, because having Plowshares in my hand gives me the ability to kill one of my own creatures. Like, could you imagine if I play Wall of Swords here, I play Sarah Angel of my own, my opponent attacks with his creature, pumps it, and uses Aelopal, and I Plowshare my own Angel in response. That saves me 2 damage from the Aelopal, and I gain 4 and block the wolf. Again, another huge life swing. And since all that really matters right now is just tempo and using these tomes to draw into the late game threats and drawing counterspells, that could be a completely decisive play. So I'm going to look ahead here and see if there's anything that I can block the wolf with the plan of just Plowsharing it as a backup if need be.
Something.
Yeah,
Yep.
plow. There you go.
Feels so bad.
So that puts Mikkel to 21.
1/1
Brian
first striker
remains
mid-game
6.
with that.
Or he
precious
plows
card.
in response to the Pendelhaven. So that should put Mikkel at 20.
Yeah, only gives him 1 life, right?
Yeah, because the Pendelhaven doesn't happen until after the plow resolves. That was a good top deck. Or maybe he had the
That is the mind fuck, isn't it?
Yeah.
Indeed.
Maybe
Did he just
he
stop
was
that
drawing the
guy?
card to see, am I going to get a blocker? Or am I going to get a counterspell? Like, did he draw the plow, or was he holding the plow?
I mean, look at him go with those books. He's in his element, Like,
Definitely.
Yeah. Brian doesn't want to be at this life total. He does have a Spirit Link, though.
Yes, I do.
He's already used his Divine offering, so I think his life gain has been eliminated here, aside from the Spirit Link. But he's got to get a creature on board in order to make that effective.
So I'm doing a quick check of.
He says, how many cards have you got in your hand?
And I think he does have 4.
3, he says.
Oh, 3.
Oh, man.
So Brian's going through the graveyard again. Is he looking to see what have I not drawn?
Yep.
Possibly, right? Because he played the recall.
Yeah, but he doesn't have Resurrection. He doesn't have Reconstruction. He doesn't have Draftner's Restoration. So he's just checking to see what is on the top of my deck. You know, he's just kind of guessing, I guess.
Do people play with Resurrection in Singleton?
Generally, no. Resurrection's kind of an interesting card. Obviously, there's the black reanimation spells. Well, specifically Animate Dead, which is easily the best reanimation spell that's going to be made until Ice Age, when Dance of the Dead gets printed. But Resurrection is just one of those cards where unless you're playing with a bunch of really big fat things, you're spending just as much mana to resummon something as you would initially spend to cast it. So the card has some use and similar effects down the road once Wizard starts to make really big and intimidating monsters. But at this era in the game, creature design was just so stunted relative to removal and counter design that there just wasn't any real viable target for Resurrection. You're just better off playing with another creature. So I don't think anyone's got Resurrection in their list as far as I know.
I guess they do.
You know, I don't know. I don't know that Brian would. You can't target your opponent's graveyard with it, so it's a little bit limited. I don't know if Brian's creature heavy enough to, consider it.
That's not. It's not like an Animate Dead. You're right, and it's more expensive than Animate Dead. But of course, the plus side is that
it can be disenchanted.
Exactly. So if you can cast a Reconstruction to get your Sarah Angel back or something.
Yeah, Resurrection. So Reconstruction would be fantastic. I think it can bring back the Chaos Orb. It can bring back the Icy. It can bring back the Scepter. And Brian could grind Mickle's hand away. But right now, did he just play a Mishra's Factory? I think that's.
Ooh, yeah, he did. Oh, wow. Mikhail is at Mishra's there.
It was kind of hiding there underneath his hand. Oh no.
So my first actual fat butt creature finally arrives, the Azure Drake, just in time for him to play Mishra's Factory. And fortunately and unfortunately, based on the way my hand is, my hand, I believe right now, contains Control Magic, Sarah Angel, which I just drew off Jayemdae Tome, Disenchant, and Counterspell. I believe those are the 4 cards that I currently have in hand. And with that card set in hand, I really can't afford to hold on to the 2/4 Drake as good as it is against the Mishra's Factor. The Sarah is just strictly better. The other cards kind of critical to dealing with the range of things that he might have. At this point, I know Mikhail's deck really well, and I kind of know the things that could potentially kill me. So I'm holding on to the Control Magic. I've already killed the Sarah, but he has Shivan Dragon left in his deck. And so as far as I'm concerned, that Control Magic is going to be there. I'm pretty much going to deploy it to deal with Shivan Dragon if in fact he does draw it. And maybe I'd grab Order Leapor with it as well, because it's such a lethal attacker this late in the game. But outside of those 2 things, it would be very hard for me to cast Control Magic on anything else. But having it in my hand is a really nice security blanket against him drawing a big flyer like that.
Oh,
why is he doing that?
But he wouldn't do it unless he had like a Mahamoti Jin or something. You know what I mean?
I really hope that Brian is spotting the factory. He has to. I mean, it's not in between. It's on there on the Pendelhaven. So I'm sure he has another creature.
He's it. So Brian's got to have something that comes over the top. Maybe he's got a Wall of Swords, Air Elemental. He has a creature that's better.
Perfect.
Because a 2/4
exactly
flyer
right.
on this board is pretty good.
Well, no, it's in Aeliopile range. So it's a 2-for-1. It gets rid of the Aeliopile.
Exactly.
But
it's pretty good, right? I mean, you get to kill the factory and you get rid of the Aeliopile.
Yeah, no, it's good. But Brian's got something better.
5 mana Air Elemental. Oh, Sarah Angel.
So now the question is, does he protect the Angel from the Aeliopile?
No, absolutely not. If anything,
I don't know that.
If anything, I actually want him to use Aeliopile on Sarah Angel. In fact, as soon as I play this thing and I announce it with, again, sort of intimidating fanfare, I really, really, really want Mikkel to attack me with the factory. I would block in an instant with the Sarah and have him use Aelopal, because every point of life matters. He doesn't know when his burn spells are showing up. And if I can gain 2 life by inducing him to use Aelopal on the Sarah Angel over me, that completely changes the way that this game unfolds and completely changes what cards can actually kill me. Being at 5 versus being at 3 is enormous in terms of the range of potential threats. It takes both pyrotechnics and chain lightning out of the equation and gives me a lot more breathing room to survive to the end.
But Brian has played his disenchant yet.
I have not.
So I think he wants to disenchant that factory.
Oh, wow. Wait a minute. Is this on the life total?
Yep.
This is bad news when you're Brian.
Yeah, it is. I was like,
yeah, but that puts him at 4. So I think this means that Mikkel has pyrotechnics.
God, yeah. I mean, what did he just draw right there? When he just randomly
and
throws
Mikkel's going to try to close it out here.
I was just nearly certain, because again, on my die, I believe I'm at 3 life. So I figure, well, he just Aelopal'd me at the end of the turn. That can only mean one thing. He has chain lightning and other burn in hand, and I'm toast here.
But even then, just to be kind of the critical analyst here. Okay.
And look at that. Spirit Link.
Wow. He used the Aelopal. Okay, so I mean, he's taking a different line. We don't have all the information, what's in his hand, right? But
no, interesting.
I kind of feel like I would have traded the factory for the factory and the Aelopal just to get that angel out of the way.
Yeah, exactly, and to keep pressure on.
Because at this point, Mikkel gains 4 life with the angel, but that doesn't matter. The angel is saving him a lot of damage. So he's tapping 5, and he's going to pyrotechnics. Oh, shit!
6 mana. As soon as I saw him tap 2 red, I was thinking to myself, at last. I've been holding on to this control magic, and I just threw away Azure Drake, which is a very, very relevant card right now, just on the hope that he might actually either have Shivan in hand or he draws it soon, and I can activate this control magic to maximum degree. And that exact scenario unfolded right in front of me, and I was completely overjoyed.
Was he? Maybe he played the Spirit Link to try to lure out a counterspell from Brian?
I think that's accurate too. I think that's the right play there. The Island of Whack Whack is still going to keep the Shivan in bay.
Of course.
Brian is still looking at 3 cards a turn. I feel like Brian is stabilized, but he's just in a really bad spot with those X spells.
Definitely.
Let's see.
Some kind of knight.
So this is really interesting. You notice he drew no cards other than no extra cards other than his regular draw step right there. And yet he's got 2 very valid and powerful threats in hand. Now, I think there's a possibility that he had Shivan Dragon in his hand this whole time and believed that the Island of Wak Wak was effectively nullifying the card completely. And that's a totally understandable interpretation of the way Island of Wak Wak works. In fact, I saw a number of people in the chat. Unfortunately, you can't see it, but there was a live chat for the spectators, and people were talking about Island of Wak Wak and its effect on flying creatures. And the way that Island of Wak Wak actually works is that it only, I believe it's like Sorceress Queen, it only reduces the base power of a flying creature down to 0. And in the case of Shivan Dragon, that would make it a 0/5, but it still has fire breathing, and the fire breathing effect is not affected by the Island of Wak Wak at all. So I think Mikkel has 4 mountains in play, so I can just reduce the Shivan down to a 4/5 flyer, which of course is still lethal and can kill me. Now, I don't know if Mikkel actually believed that it worked that way, and he may have just been holding back on the Shivan. There's really no reason to play it at all right now, or previously, if you believe that your opponent can just reduce it down to 0 and ignore it with an Island of Wak Wak. So assuming that he had the Shivan in hand and he just drew the Order of Leapbor. But it does say a lot about his patience. Multiple times this game, he's had multiple threats in hand that he hasn't played right away. He's kept a lot of cards in hand, which is tremendously disciplined given the fact that he's just trying to push through those last few points of damage. And holding a bunch of cards in hand really changes how I have to approach playing the game. It makes me have to play a lot slower and be very, very tentative with my own threats and answers, because when I'm this low in life, you can just kill me with anything. So incredibly disciplined play by Mikkel to wait on playing multiple threats in a turn to potentially overwhelm any counters that I might have and to really make me think. So very impressive play.
Yeah, an Order.
Yeah, Order of Lightbearer.
So what the Order of Lightbearer can do it can first strike kill the
Exactly.
angel with that much.
And he's got so much mana
on board.
Yeah, he has a ton of mana in play. 6 planes right there, or 7
that
actually.
is what makes these pump creatures so powerful, right? That you can late game they're still useful. Whereas usually when you draw like a 1 mana or 2 mana creature, especially a soldier, like late game, you're like, just another body, that's it. But it can be kind of have a big influence here.
So I guess Brian really wants Abu Jafar.
Yeah, man.
Vintage all-star.
Does he play with Abu Jafar? Don't think so.
Oh, no, he doesn't. I think he...
No, there's no Abu Jafar.
There's an episode of All Things Considered, and Menelakos was trying to justify Abu Jafar in Singleton. So I had to bring it up as a shout-out to him.
I think it's
you don't see him very often.
It's funny, right? You can make the case for it.
Hey, it's a solid wall.
Yeah, I think Abu Jafar is either a 1/1 or a 0/1 white creature for 1 mana, and I think it just kills anything that it blocks. Kind of a bizarre ability, a bit like a little mini white basilisk.
4.
What's he gonna do?
Control magic on the Shivan.
There it is. Been holding that for so long.
That is sweet.
Perfect opportunity for it.
So now what? Does he just let his angel die and then... Because this pump knight can first strike kill the Shivan and the angel. I guess he's got to block with both of them to ensure that the pump knight dies.
Let's see. So the pump knight is too white to give +1/+0, right?
Yeah, so he could 1, 2, 3, and first strike.
Yeah.
So he could. So I think the play, as I see it, would be to block with both the angel and the dragon, just to kill the pump knight. As dumb as that sounds, right?
Exactly. Like,
it's crazy, isn't it? Order of Leap were kind of a good creature.
Side of the board. You're like, I don't want to exchange that for an Order of Viper.
Yeah, it feels
but
so bad.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't make any sense, and I think maybe at the same time he just throws the Mishras in there as well, because with Brian at 4 life, he can't risk blocking the Mishras and let the pump knight. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Wow.
I tend to think that that's what I would do. I would.
And you're making it harder for your...
and then force Brian to make a difficult decision.
Yeah, that's exactly. You're forcing him to make a difficult choice.
So he's coming just with the knight.
Let's see if Brian's going to do the double block.
You can see right there, I'm profanely pointing towards my Serra Angel by accident. You see me tapping on the control magic as well. So you can't hear it on the audio, but I very loudly announce I'll block with both creatures. And of course, this is the only thing I can do. I need to block with both, and because he has enough mana to first strike down the Shivan Dragon, I need damage left over for the Serra to take out the Order Leaper and kill it. And had he actually attacked with the Factor, I wouldn't have been happy about it, but I would have had to disenchant it to kill it. I really, really am hoping to just hold that disenchant until he draws his Chaos Orb, as the Chaos Orb is one of his few outs against some of my bigger creatures. But in lieu of taking 2 extra damage when I'm this low in life, I would definitely just disenchant the Factor. So he didn't actually wind up missing 2 points of damage there at the end of the day, but he also let me keep the disenchant in my hand, which could matter later on in the game.
I think he is indicating it there.
No, he's saying I'm just blocking with the angel, I think, or else he would have moved the control magic up.
Oh,
instead.
Okay. Oh, because I thought when he put his hand, when he was pointing at both of them.
Instead, both of them.
Well, let's see what's going to happen.
Oh no, he did. I guess he said both.
Well, he was kind of pointing at them, but I agree. You could have put the control magic at the top to clarify it, but
you see him adjust his
life
total to 24.
Mikkel will gain 4 because the angel did 4 damage. And see right there, I feel like Mikkel missed an opportunity to just push 2 damage through.
Yeah.
You know, kind of sneak it underneath.
I think he wants to play it safe.
Yeah, I agree with Ken. I think that it was probably correct for him to attack there. Because, again, if you're paying attention to the range of answers that I might have, the way that I would really blow that attack up and really wreck him is if I had Swords to Plowshares, but that's already gone. given the fact that we're still playing Singleton, I can't have a second copy of Swords. So if he runs the factory in, what's the worst punish that could possibly happen? The worst punish is that I have a disenchant and I can blow it up, but I might not have a disenchant. He might get in for 2 more points of damage. So totally relevant play to make, and Ken's completely right there.
Because he's like, I'm so close to the win, I don't want to make a mistake.
Yeah.
Right? And now at least he's guaranteed that he has a creature still. But
yeah, and another very relevant thing too is that if I have disenchant, that means that I have to take another point of damage off City of Brass if I'm going to draw with the Jayemdae Tome and disenchant. You can see the amount of mana I have left here. So it does affect the game for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. That would have been a better play, I think. Oh, man. Brian drawing all those cards again.
And do a quick audit of his hand. He's got 2 cards.
Man.
Okay.
This game number 2 has been a long game.
I've been mentioning these X spells for so long, but look at how thin Mikkel's deck is. It just blows my mind that he hasn't ripped one off the top. He got his detonate, but an earthquake. I mean, just about anything. Unfortunately, Brian could have the counterspell by now.
Yeah, I'm kind of convinced Brian has to have a counterspell now.
Yeah, it's a fairly good assumption.
Right?
Yeah, I haven't seen one yet. So he's got a mana drain. He's got a counterspell. He's got Spell Blast, which is not going to help him. He's got Power Sink, which could help. No. Yeah. Power Sink could help, but
Power Sink, counterspell.
Brian's at so low of life. Power Sink, I don't think is going to do much for him unless he was entirely untapped.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I can't rely on Power Sink anymore when I'm this low in life. It's just almost useless. It's one of the reasons why I don't like the card.
So it's going to be Mana Drain or Counterspell in hand that can kind of save him from the X spell scenario. I think we're going to see here something.
So it's funny, right? Does Mikkel tap out just to force Brian to have like a 30 mana drain, and then Brian has to figure out how to spend 15 mana or take the burn?
That is a very relevant point, actually.
Oh man, this is a bad moment to glitch.
Oh yes, he lags out a bit here, but not for too long, fortunately.
Don't do
it.
Okay, there's the fireball. Okay, there's the X spell we've been talking about.
So that's a fireball for 6 with me. Well, he believes that I'm at 4. I'm actually at 3 life. And it's kind of an interesting play here, actually. I think in his position, due to the fact that Power Sink is relevant, I think I probably would have tapped a little bit less mana. I think I would have just gone for lethal rather than going for 2 additional mana. If I didn't have 2 sources of 2 sinks for generic mana, I think casting the fireball for more would make more sense, because of the fact that it would be harder for me to use it. In 7-point old school Singleton, we play with mana burn, of course, which is a little bit of an antiquated mechanic, but is present in some of the old school formats. And so giving me a whole bunch of mana if I happen to have mana drain as the answer, and making me choke on mana burn could be extremely relevant. Also, sometimes people forget, since there aren't necessarily indicators of how much mana you're getting added to your mana pool at the beginning of the next main step, that they mana drain a big spell, they go to the next turn and they attack, and they've got all this mana floating in their pool, and they just immediately burn to death. So I have to be very conscious of that. So he fireballs me for 6. It's a good amount, but at the same time, it's going to make his follow-up play here a little bit more awkward. And for me, this is a perfect opportunity to mana drain. I don't have anything to spend the mana on in hand at the moment, but I do have Jayemdae Tome and Jayemdae Tome, so that gobbles up most of the mana. I'm pretty sure that I'll find something to spend the remainder of the mana on. So very, very happy to mana drain the first lethal X spell and get that out of the way.
Yep.
And this is interesting that he also tapped, I think, his factory in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And
so he's got a mana drain.
The counterspell. Yeah, mana drain.
Because you use the mana drain here, because Brian can effectively spend 6 mana. And so that's the question I was just asking.
Well, he can use 4
what if Mikkel had tapped out, right? Would Brian have taken 6 point of mana burn?
Yeah.
When he's not able to spend that other mana?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
You see what I mean?
That's a good point. And maybe Miguel was thinking, I want to keep some mana open to do something else when he counters it.
To play my second one. Maybe he's got the Disintegrate also, but if he did, he would just show it right now.
Yeah. That's true.
But he does have to
But I mean,
consider
maybe
power
he
sync,
just wanted
right?
to play a creature or something else, something more harmless.
Oh,
Ooh.
yeah, he gestured towards it. Okay, so he goes.
So there's a little bit of confusion here, actually. I cast Mana Drain, and Mikkel is sort of pausing for a long time, and he sort of reached over and started tapping his other lands, thinking about what to do. And it was pretty evident to me that I think that he may have had the Mana Drain confused with Power Sync, which if you play old school, I mean, Mana Drain it's a pretty ubiquitous card. At the same time, it's a 1 point card on the format and is rather expensive as well. So if you've played the format more casually, you might have played against Power Sync more, and you're used to the fact that it makes you tap additional mana. So he actually is asking me a question that you can't hear right now about whether or not he needs to tap more mana. I indicated to him that it's actually Mana Drain's effect, and that I'll be getting 7 generic mana on my next main step. At which point he realizes that he doesn't have to tap any more lands.
I Mana Drained it. No, you can't tap the rest of your mana and try to make it bigger.
No.
What are they discussing? Now he's asking himself, do I play this other one? Do I play this other one? If I play this other one,
that's a no-brainer. I don't think he has it, right? I mean, if he has a disintegrating hand, he would have.
Yeah, but he gestured towards all his land. The problem is if he plays this other one,
Power Sync.
It could get Power Synced, maybe? Because he's got to do it for 4, and he can Power Sync for 2.
If I had Power Sync in
Yeah.
So maybe that first fireball was too big.
Oh, yeah, let's see, he's doing it. Oh, disintegrate.
Yeah.
Will we see Power Sync? Oh, no, I think we will. No.
It's a counter.
Oh.
And I've got them both. I literally drew the Mana Drain
and Brian
the
goes
turn
to
before.
3.
Oh, man. Ridiculous.
So crazy, yes.
So Brian may be out of the woods. Oh, wait. They didn't mark Brian's City of Brass life total down.
I did. I reached over and adjusted my life total. I'm actually now at 2.
Again.
Okay, let me tell him.
You'll see
I think Brian's
pop up
at
on the
3.
screen here, and I'm actually at 2 life.
So I sent some.
Yeah.
If they see it, I don't know.
I believe. I don't know if they're even paying attention to that though.
So there's 4 of the generic right there on the Jam Day Tome, and then 2 more. And guess what I'm about to draw?
It takes.
That's Brain Geyser right there.
Okay, yeah. So Mikkel's gesturing towards the dice. I think that they're talking about it. Okay, cool. Okay. Yeah, Brian changed his, but I think that Mikkel needs to change his.
Oh, no worries.
Because it makes a difference. Because Mikkel needs to know that Brian's at 3 and know that chain lightning and that lightning bolt are going to kill him. You know.
True. Oh man, but this.
No, this is an epic match. I mean, look at how thin the decks are. It's been back and forth. Brian's been on his heels almost the entire game.
And now Brian can finally swing in and just deal some damage to Miguel, right, with the Mahamoti.
Yeah, Big Daddy Modi's going to come in, and it's going to take him 5 turns to clean this mess up, man. Mr. Clean is going to get the job done.
He does look like Mr. Clean, doesn't he?
Well, of course.
Yeah, but just because what is he doing at the moment?
Because Mikkel doesn't have ball lightning.
So what I'm doing right there actually is I'm doing a quick count. I actually literally counted my deck. And I think I determined that it was I think I had a little bit under 20 cards remaining. I think about 17 or 18 cards left, maybe even fewer than that. And what I'm thinking about right now is I have 1 more generic mana left in my pool. I just drew Brain Geyser off the Jalem Tome before I discarded that island. So the card that really gets me out of the woods here and reduces Mikkel down to just a single out, which would be basically his Earthquake, is Spirit Link, which Ken was talking about before. So I have to figure out not only how many cards do I need a Brain Geyser for to give myself a reasonably high chance of getting Spirit Link, but I also need to consider the redraws, getting Spell Blast and or Power Sync as well, and how much mana I need to leave untapped in the event that I draw those. Plus, if I get Spirit Link and I get Power Sync, how much mana do I need to have untapped to go back up to a safe life total with the Jhin, hitting for 5 and gaining 5, and also being able to Power Sync an X spell that might be lethal. So I think about this for a little while. I'm pretty sure that he doesn't have Earthquake in hand. That would just be unbelievably lucky. So with that in mind, I kind of decide that I can take the risk that he's going to top deck Earthquake and Brain Geyser for a few more cards because I really want to give myself a chance to hit the Spirit Link and to maximize the chances of that because it puts both Pyrotechnics and Chain Lightning out of reach of killing me. So with that in mind, with 1 mana floating, I decide that ultimately I'm going to use the 1 generic and tap a total of 7 extra mana to cast a Brain Geyser for 6, which I think gives me something like a 60% chance of hitting the Spirit Link, as well as an opportunity to get both Power Sync and Spell Blast to stop something small like Chaos Orb. So that's what I'm going to do here.
I think it's a no-brainer. He just comes in. Oh, okay. So Thomas said that in Singleton, Falling Star is errated, and you can only target up to 2 creatures max.
Okay, so that explains the situation.
Yeah, that explains why he didn't go after the turtle.
Okay.
This is a geyser for 6 with that last extra generic mana.
There it is. That's great. That's great for Brian. He's coming back into this game. How many cards is he drawing?
Yeah, he's got to be careful. That's probably why he was looking at his library.
Okay, so he already sunk his drain mana into the books.
All but 1.
Yeah, I've all forgotten about that because it seems like a while ago, but yeah. Which is perfect because it's 6 mana in total, right? 4 for the Jam Day Tome and 2 for the paperback.
So off the geyser, I draw Power Sync, but I don't draw Spirit Link.
I don't think that this game is going to go the distance, but right now, Mikkel. So, look, Falling Star should have tapped that turtle, right? And then if the turtle was tapped, Mikkel could have shot Brian with his Javelineer, and then he just missed an opportunity to hit for 2 with the factory. So there was a play line for Mikkel to have won this game already.
Yeah.
Well, I actually did, as I said before, I did have Disenchant to stop the factory. But as I also mentioned before, there were definitely some missed points of damage with him being a little conservative with both his Acacian Priest and holding back on attacks with the Scout as well. So yeah, those life totals were completely decisive ultimately in where this game went.
Yeah, true, but yeah.
Hindsight's 20/20, right? But if that Javelineer had done, if the Javelineer responds to the Rapid God by just shooting Brian, this is a kind of a different game now, right?
Yeah, I'm quite glad I never actually went down that one.
I mean, Mikkel
because
pretty good.
He should not have had to use Javelineer on the tortoise. He should have just died from the Falling Star.
But I mean,
if we had played it correctly.
Brian's got a flash counter remaining.
Don't have that.
Believe.
But the good news is he doesn't have Bolt either.
But so he can answer the Bolt.
I don't.
No, Brian's not using flash counter. He's using Spell Blast.
Yeah. Ooh, Preacher.
Man. A little bit late to the party, unfortunately.
Yeah, Preacher. So, but Brian will just choose to give him the Angel or the Factory.
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't have.
He's not going to give it. That's the thing. Preacher is really, really great, but towards the end of the game, when there's several creatures in play that are kind of at a standstill, Preacher not so effective.
Yeah, Ken's description of that is totally accurate. And in all the testing that I did, if the red-white deck drew Preacher early and I didn't draw Swords to Plowshares or Control Magic, or had one of my own Theft guys in play, it often proved decisive, actually, because my primary defense against a lot of his early guys is a big creature, something like Azure Drake or Wall of Swords. And when he could just tap his Preacher and steal that creature, or steal my Serendib or something, I would often just be screwed. Like, I couldn't actually play my creature because it would increase the clock. It's the presence of Preacher and my deck's vulnerability to it is actually one of the reasons why I've considered using the card Aelopile in my own deck, because it just having that extra spot removal to kill something pesky like Preacher, or maybe a real nightmarish card like Aladdin or something, which isn't played a lot but would be extremely, extremely tough to deal with. It does make a lot of sense. If you are planning on playing Blue-White Control, definitely consider playing Aelopile in your deck.
Let's see.
There it is. Finally drew Spirit Link. It was 1 card down. If I had just geysered for 1 additional card, I would have been able to hit the Spirit Link and throw it on the Mahamudi. So it was a little bit further down in the deck, but I got it just in time, and that is going to be hugely powerful. He's down to just 1 card in hand, and now I can swing my way all the way back up to 7 life and be out of reach of everything but Earthquake. And as I said before, I've got Power Sync in my hand. He has, I think, 12 mana total out, or maybe 13, so he can Earthquake. He can Earthquake for a ton, but if he Earthquakes for really any range now that would be lethal. I have enough mana untapped to power sync.
Ooh, this is big.
That's what I was saying. That Spirit Link is going to turn this whole thing around.
Oh my, oh man.
Yeah, so backbreaking.
Mikkel and losing 5, but more importantly, Brian is gaining 5 in every turn. Oh man.
Brian is out of bolt range now. So I think that one attack right there may have just closed this game out.
And one of his only outs against the Mahamudi Jin was particularly with Disintegrate and Fireball gone. He's not, and Sword Splashers, he's not using Fissure, is that Chaos Orb. So the fact that I have Disenchant in my hand still means that Chaos Orb isn't an out against the lifelink Mahamudi either. And that really, really narrows down his range of outs at this point.
I mean, I'm looking at Mikkel's list.
For the first time in the game, I'm feeling somewhat comfortable.
Got any outs left? He could go get he's still got an Earthquake.
Right? Earthquake. I think that's the one.
Yeah, and he's got a Granite Gargoyle to stop the bleeding, but he's got a Chain Lightning, a Lightning. Maybe he's got a Lightning Bolt left. I'm not sure, but he's got a Pyrotechnics somewhere in there.
He does.
Yeah, and did he already use his Chaos Orb?
Nope.
It's hard. I know he used it in game 1, but it's been a while, maybe.
But Brian just drew a full grip. He's got to have a Disenchant. I don't know that he's used his Disenchant yet.
That is also
because if
exactly right.
He would have disenchanted that Spirit Link, right? So I think.
And that is actually not true. I have no reason to destroy the Spirit Link. This is really important because again, I have to just narrow down the range of outs my opponent might be able to play. I know that I'm probably going to have to win the game with a Spirit Link on one of my creatures. So holding on to that Disenchant for dear life means that he cannot destroy my creature with Chaos Orb. And as much as I would like to have the Angel beating him in the face, it being neutralized by a Spirit Link doesn't really affect the game all that much. In the same reason why I wouldn't counterspell a removal card on one of my creatures either, because all that really matters is the life total. Whether or not I kill him now or next turn or 2 turns from now, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that I don't lose the game. And this is sort of a mindset you have to be in when you play control decks. You always have to be assessing the range of threats that your opponent plays. And counterspells are, in my opinion, not really that strong of an answer in control decks because you can answer nearly anything your opponent might do with just white cards. Counterspells exist to stop a relatively narrow range of threats. Most of the time it's card drawing spells. And in games like this, it's spells that are just hurling damage straight at your face. And there's just no reason for me to waste a counterspell on something that I can answer with white in another way. And holding onto the Disenchant is exactly sort of the same philosophy at this point. The only way he answers the Mahamudi is with Chaos Orb. As long as I hold the Disenchant, I'll get there. It's inevitable. I don't need the Sarah to deal 4 damage to him also.
I think Brian's got to have a Disenchant. He's holding it back. Or it's somewhere in that, the 10 cards left in his library. Mikkel's on tilt right now. Or Brian's thinking.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking right now is I have Air Elemental in my hand right now, but I also have Power Sync.
Hopefully he'll get back. Yeah.
And I think for a little while about casting the Air Elemental, mainly because I'm thinking about just closing out the game next turn. Because I can hit him with the Sarah, and even with Spirit Link, he'll take the 4 damage and then die. So I can actually.
Yeah, he's gonna try.
So you can see me tapping my mana. My thought was if I play Air Elemental here, I can attack with Factory, Air Elemental, Sarah, and Mahamudi Jin, and that's 15 damage total. My opponent is just down to 14, so it would be lethal damage, and he won't be able to put his Mishra's Factory in the way to block because I have that Disenchant. I don't need to disenchant the Spirit Link if the Sarah is actually dealing lethal damage because of the way that stacking works, and this wasn't always the case. It was something that was changed a little while ago. I don't want to quote the years, but maybe 7-8 years ago, something like that. Who knows? I've been playing Magic forever. But if you're hitting your opponent with lethal damage with a Spirit Link creature, the person actually goes to 0 with the lifelink trigger on the stack. So before he can gain the 4 life back from the Sarah, he'll be dead. He'll be dead to the damage from the Sarah and the other collective creatures. So my reason for thinking about playing Air Elemental here is that I can attack, disenchant the Factory before he can successfully block with it after he animates it, and hit him for 15 and kill him. But at the same time, if you look at my mana, if I cast Air Elemental, I actually can be in a position where I may not be able to power sync properly, and I decided that ultimately I can just take the risk here. And plus, he's got the Preacher in play, which would interfere with things anyway. So After thinking for a little while about playing your elemental, I ultimately decide that I'm just gonna
Try
take
to
a
finish
saber
this
play.
game. Maybe he doesn't.
Oh, it changes his mind.
Yeah, because if he changes his mind, that means that maybe he's got the spell blast or the power sink, and he wants to be able to respond to whatever it is that Mikkel does.
Got so low res over there. What the hell happened? What is that, like 280p now?
2 instead, right? Okay, there's a Chaos Orb.
Yeah, there it is. So he's got an answer on the board. If the creature attempts to take something, he can orb it. I think Mikkel is. I think it's over unless he's able to earthquake for 8.
I mean, Brian has been with his back against the wall for the majority of this game number 2, and just to see him get back, and it's really like you said, that Spirit Link.
All right, so I'm going to pause here. This was actually one of the most complex interactions that took place in the game, and I learned something here. Unfortunately we did not play the card correctly here, but I have learned something since then about the way that Preacher works. So Preacher is a really interesting and unique card in terms of its abilities. It actually has 2 different targets that are announced at the same time. You target your opponent with the Preacher, and your opponent in turn targets a creature of theirs as part of the actual activation. It's so strange the way that works, but that's one of the reasons why Preacher is so cool. It can actually get around things with hexproof, because your opponent is targeting the thing and not you. You're only targeting your opponent with the Preacher. And because of that, and the way the ordering works, and I did not know this at the time, you actually can only target a creature that you control when someone points the Preacher at you, that is an actual active creature when the Preacher is tapped and announced. You can't wait for the Preacher to target you and then respond by doing something to your battlefield, maybe flashing a creature into play, or in the case of how I ultimately do this, activating your Mishra's Factory and giving him that. I would have had to actually activate my own factory during his upkeep and had him not responding by using his Preacher, which he probably wouldn't have done actually, and that would have been kind of a cool play. But yeah, the way that it works here, I kind of think for a really, really long time about what I want to give him. I've got reasons for potentially giving him the Sarah Angel, because I have Islander Walk Walk in play and I can ignore it. And I'm fully intending to just orb away the Preacher at the end of the turn anyway. I don't really, I'm planning on doing that regardless. So at the time when I'm kind of considering the various options, I'm just assuming I'm going to be able to kill the Preacher anyway, and that it doesn't really matter. So I don't give it a great deal of thought, but you'll see sort of the play line that goes on here.
Makes the difference.
So he's going to say, give me something. Now, Brian can choose to orb the Preacher in response.
He can also animate the factory, right? Give the factory.
Yeah, he'll give him the Angel. So the Angel has sickness. It's Mikkel's, or he won't.
He's got the Island of Whack Whack, of course, to also stop it.
Yeah.
If need be.
So the Angel will be a 1-turn speed bump for that Djinn just to run over.
True. It will give Mikkel 4 life, of course.
Yeah.
So it can actually give him 2 more turns, right?
I would actually just use down the whack whack on it, so he doesn't
Djinn,
get
gives him 4 more life.
Yeah, yeah. It increases the clock, but I just don't see Brian allowing that to happen, because he's got a 3-turn clock right now.
And the truth of the matter is because I had the disenchant in my hand, I know that he has basically no outs against Mahamudi Djinn, because he's used Disintegrate and Fireball. That leaves Orb as the only singular out, and as long as I've got Disenchant, he can't actually kill Mahamudi Djinn with Orb either. So I'm pretty certain that all I need to do is just hit him with the Djinn one more time. Then I'm out of range of all of the burn spells, and there's literally no way that he can win the game. So I'm kind of just thinking about what the correct thing to do here is, whether or not I really care about giving him the Angel. He still has Strip Mine in his deck, which would give him an opportunity to kill off Islander Walk Walk, but I would still be able to reduce the Sarah if I wanted to, plus it's not big enough to stop Mahamudi Djinn anyway. And ultimately I decided, you know what, I'm just going to use Chaos Orb and kill off the Preacher and not even worry about it. So after fiddling around with my Sarah Angel and deciding whether or not I want to hand it to him, and again, the only 2 legal targets, or the only 2 legal things to give him, to give the Preacher, are the Sarah or the Mahamudi. I can't actually give him the factory. But I don't know that. And apparently neither does Mikkel.
Actually, no, he's got a 2-turn clock because the way that Spirit Link works is
Yeah, you get the damage first, and after
you get
gain
the
a
damage
life, right?
first and then after. So he's got to hit with the Jin next turn, and then the turn after that, he's going to go Angel Jin.
Look at this! Look at this! There
Oh,
we
there
go.
it is.
Divine Offering
Divine Offering.
on the
Okay,
orb.
so Signs of Life. I wonder how long he had that.
Wow.
I think he's
Maybe Mickle's just playing.
I think he just drew
At this
it,
point,
actually.
he just
Not
thinks,
positive,
I hope that
but-
Brian decks himself. He just did a fat brain geyser. He's been drawing a lot of cards. He's got a board full.
Yeah, I can't imagine that he would hold the Divine Offering for a long time when I have a Jam Day Tome in play, but maybe he just exactly thinks that I might just wind up decking myself and that he can hang on to the card and gain life with it. It's really hard to know, but I think that he did actually just draw a Divine Offering that turn. I wasn't tracking the cards in his hand off the top.
I don't know what the card count is, but I mean, they can't have more than 20 cards in either one of their decks.
Yeah, I think you're right. Because I mean,
Okay, so he
can
tap
like
factory.
Yeah, so he's giving him a tap factory. Okay.
Yeah, so he's like activating himself and then just tapping. So he's got a 2/2 factory.
Yep. And as said before, that's actually unfortunately not a
If I
legal
look at
play
the
based on the way that the
Mikel didn't play the Brain Geyser, didn't have
based on the way
those
that the
books in
creature
play.
actually
Look at
works
how
with the
thin his
multi-targeting
life is,
on announcement.
The land tax.
Oh, the land tax, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. The land tax seems like ages ago when that was still relevant.
He's attacking. That dies. He gains 4 more life. The angel gives him 4 more life. So I think Mikel's going to go to 20 now. But
So you see right there, he actually sends his factory in, deciding that the factory is not going to really affect the game very much and that he wants to gain life. But you'll notice I declare a block with the angel, and then I use Island of Wakwak on my own Sarah Angel to reduce its power to 0, and that means that he doesn't actually gain any life off the Spirit Link, which is pretty nice.
yeah, I mean, I guess what Mikel could do is Island of Wakwak's his own guy. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Oh, wow. Okay, so he declares it as a block, and before damage is dealt, he's using Island of Wakwak so that Mikel doesn't take any life.
Yeah.
That is a pretty cool play. Oh, look at him go, using the book. He doesn't care.
No, he's got to close this out. If he draws the answers, he's going to close this game out.
I'm just checking his list to see if maybe he has a Felden's Cane, but it's not in there.
No.
And now I've just drawn Spell Blast, so I have Chaos
So
Orb
he doesn't
covered now.
untap the factory because the factory is Mikel's.
Right.
Just to clarify that, drawing card for turn, looking very thin there. Now he can swing in for 5 for the Mahamoti.
Mm-hmm.
Disenchant.
The Spirit Link.
Ooh,
Okay.
that's
Now
big.
he's dealing 9.
That is big.
Puts Mikel to 7. Wow, this is only game 2. This is going to
It's
be
in fact only game 2. What a
epic struggle
marathon.
here.
But another
It's a
5
best
life
of
game
5,
puts
man.
me out of range of everything.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, man. So keeps Preacher tapped. Oh, how the tables have turned here.
Yeah, I mean, he keeps Preacher tapped because what? He's just going to get the same Mishra's factory back.
Yeah.
He's saying, this one represents your factory. This one here is mine. Yours is the winter. Mine is the 4th edition or Chronicles or whatever.
Yeah, man.
He's scooping.
He's
scooping.
scooping.
I can't beat this.
Wow.
Whew.
I always say like
What
Revise
a
is my
crazy
reference.
marathon that was.
Okay, scooping over there. So it is a 1-1.
It is 1-1 indeed. So the way that plays out, if we actually play the Preacher correctly, is he steals the Sarah Angel, at which point at the end of the turn, I draw cards with Jam Day Tome and Jalem Tome. I draw into Spell Blast. I untap. I play. I attack for 5 again. He probably doesn't block at that point. And I play Air Elemental. And between Air Elemental and Island of Wakwak, he can't really get through with the Sarah anyway because I can just shrink the Sarah down to 0. So he's kind of just hanging out. He draws another card. I have both Spell Blast and Power Sink, and I'm able to attack on the next turn with Mahamoti and Air Elemental for lethal. And he'll have to actually block with he'll have to block the Mahamoti with the Sarah. That kills it. I still have 9 power of flyers in play. And I've got the next 2 draw steps covered between Spell Blast and Power Sink. So we wind up actually in the same place. It was unfortunately a bit of a procedural error to muddy what was a phenomenal and fantastic game. I was so relieved to win this game. I could not believe it. I had to get up and sort of just take a breather for a second because it was so close, and I felt like I had no chance of pulling the game out at multiple stages. Had to take multiple risks, and had to just honestly get objectively lucky and fade so many burn spells after he pulled all the lands out of his deck. But his deck just did not deliver the burn spells until I was able to dig quite far into my deck and to retrieve those 2 critical hard counters for 2 blue mana. So that is game 2 in the books. It was one hell of a marathon. Glad you guys got to enjoy that. Game 3 will be coming up pretty soon, and yeah, it's also a phenomenal one. Hope you're enjoying the old school 7-point Singleton action, and I will see you all